Hello. How is everyone doing? I am putting up our usual struggle. Let's pray for me today that it pins. If you are a repeat viewer, if you're a fan, a participant of the Good Sex Talk Show, you know that every beginning of the show, I attempt to pin a comment. We are on episode 14 today. Is it 14? And I have yet, I think I've done it twice, where I have pinned a comment actually. Hello, welcome. Got some smooth jazz playing as always. Giving everyone a chance to get that notification. Please go ahead and share the video. Let's have this beautiful conversation here today. Yes, child, I am attempting to pin the comment. I don't understand it. I'm like pin the comment deficient. I don't understand it. I did it last week once, and well, there it is. It is not pinning. I don't understand it. It's so annoying. Hello, everyone. I'm giving everyone a chance to join. We're gonna start at 10 o'clock. And it looks like it is 10 o'clock right now. I really don't understand this thing. Facebook Live, why are you doing me like this? What is the problem? Hello. Welcome to the Good Sex Talk Show. Okay, I can't pin the comment. I've done as much as I can. Hello. It is 10 o'clock. It is time to start the show. Thank you for joining me. I am Coach Yema here hosting the Good Sex Talk Show for you, with you. We are going to get into a very juicy topic today. But before we get started, again, let me introduce myself for those who are watching me for the first time. I am Coach Yema. I am here to close the gap for you between your sexuality and your spirituality and show you that they are two sides of the very same coin. I am also the author of the same titled book, Good Sex. Okay, it is a single woman's guide to supernatural sexual wholeness. If you are unmarried, whether you're living with him, whether you have children, whatever is going on with you, if there is not a ring on your finger, if he hasn't put a ring on it, okay, you are still single. So if you have struggled with your sexual past history, which we're going to be talking about today, most of what I'm going to be talking about is coming from this book. So pick up your copy. It's on Amazon. Search Good Sex. Put my name in it, YEAMAH, and it will pull up for you. All right. And also now the rules of engagement. Please, when you come on in, put your name and where you're from. I would love to welcome you to the show as we're having this juicy conversation. You are also welcome to join me live on the show. So if you would click the green button that's down here, you can come on live with me and we can chat. So if you have questions, if you are fuzzy about what I'm saying, if you're a little bit confused, you agree, you don't agree, whatever it is, I would love to have you on the show for us to have that conversation. And also, please comment. If I'm saying something that's resonating with you, go ahead and hit the like or hit the hearts or do that, or comment. And also, please make sure to share this video on your feed so we can invite all the beautiful souls to have a conversation with us today, okay? So let's get into it. First of all, let me check with you all. How was your weekend? Here I'm in Colorado Springs, and this weekend, I think, was it Friday or Saturday? We had a major, crazy, 10-minute storm that came through, and I have lots of trees in my yard at my house, And so it was beautiful but crazy because I saw my trees bending this way. Now it makes me think about the song, what is it? The love song where it's like the tree bend beneath his wind and the weight of his love and all that. And so like the trees were bending. I thought there were trees in my yard. I saw a tree go down. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to get someone to come in here and cut this tree down and move this branch off of the house. And then I go outside and I see that what has actually happened, which I feel kind of blessed about because now I don't have to pay for it to be removed. There is a tree next to me in my neighbor's house, like right next to our fence, and the tree broke, okay? Half of it landed on, and the branches are pretty light, like it didn't fully like bend over the tree. So one of it landed in my yard, and then my roof, like the other one is like laid on top of the roof and is like bending the fence. And so like I went over there to talk to him today. He wasn't there. It's actually an investor who bought the house. Hello, thank you for the hearts. It's an investor who bought the house, and so he wasn't there, and only the workers, the painters were there. And I'm like, can you please call him to tell him to come and cut this tree from off of my roof? Okay, please do that. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for joining. Please make sure you put your name and where you're from so I can welcome you to the show. So how was your weekends? What did you guys do? Did you have a good time? Was it not a good time? Like, what was going on with you? Tell me in the comments. I want to know, so we can have this conversation. Let's warm up a little bit and let's talk about it. But yeah, child, I was like, oh my goodness, because when I bought the house in December, there was a storm that happened like shortly after. And let's see what happened. So not shortly after, like probably like February, I think it was, maybe somewhere around there. And it was so much, it broke all kinds of trees in the yard, and it was a mess. And I had to pay for people to come pick it up, like $500 for them to come get it. Hey, Shirley, thank you for joining me. So today, what we're gonna be, did you have a good weekend, girl? Today, what we're gonna be talking about from the topic of the show is the myth of the good Christian girl. So I'm going to read from the book here, and I have some stats for you. If you've watched me before, you haven't watched me before, I'm a stats girl, and so we have informed, educated conversations so that we can have educated opinions about the things that are going on in our world, right? As far as it concerns sexuality and spirituality, specifically in the church, the Christian religion. So in the chapter here, in chapter 2, of the book, I talk about the lies that we're told. And the first lie I talk about is this. So this is what I said. The first lie, excuse me, many of us are told is that a good Christian girl, or any good girl, keeps herself for marriage, waiting perfectly for her God-appointed husband. And this lie is a little tricky because it's partially true. It sounds right and looks great on the surface, but its implications are crippling. While God's design does call for us to wait to enjoy sex in the safety and fun of marriage, of a long-term committed relationship, the implication is this: if I don't wait perfectly, then I am not a good girl. I am ruined and worthless. I've actually had a young man tell me he didn't want to date a young woman because she had been ruined. This was in 2016, so these attitudes are not of days gone by. They're right here, right now with us. So the good Christian girl myth, for me, that was one of the main reasons, like when I was 19, that, hey, Mutaz, how are you? So that was one of like the things that took me away from the church, because I'm not a virgin. I didn't wait perfectly. I am someone who is a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And so I didn't have in my mind the gift of virginity to give anyone. And so that conversation that would be had in the church about being a virgin and waiting perfectly for your husband, I automatically wasn't part of that. And even after I got saved at 17, I still messed up, right? I still fornicated. I still, fornication, from our understanding, from what the Bible talks about. It's actually about selling sex. And so I'll say premarital sex, okay? Or non-marital sex, whatever term is more appropriate for you to use, okay? I'm gonna shift this up a little bit. Whatever term is more appropriate and you feel more comfortable, premarital, non-marital. So I had sex and it felt like there was no room for me to stay and be the good Christian girl. And the weight of the good Christian girl, like you have to be perfect in your sexuality, your thoughts, and all of these. Well, they don't really too much talk about the thoughts. Usually it's just about keeping your legs closed, right? Keeping a nickel between your knees. And I let my nickel drop, okay? And so for me, hi, Yoel. For me, it was just like, well, what do I do now, right? Because I've messed up and now I'm no longer the good Christian girl. And the implication of that is like, I'm not the good Christian girl. And so my chances of finding a good spouse are like zero now because no one's going to want the ruined girl, okay? Now, this happened in like 2006, 7. Now, fast forward 10 years later, I'm having a conversation with a young man. He's 25 years old. He is a virgin and was not wanting to date a girl because he heard that she had been ruined. And I was like, what? Like, people still think that? Like, I knew generally the church had that kind of idea, but for someone to use the term ruined, I was in the process of finishing the book too. It was a year before I published this book. So I'm in the process of writing this book, right? And this guy, I'm having this conversation with him, this young man, and he's telling me that he doesn't want to date her. Nice girl, had a crush on her, thought she was amazing, but like didn't want to court or date her because she had been ruined. And so what do you ladies think about that? Put that in the comment if you're watching me live. Comment if you're watching my replay. Still go ahead and comment because I do come back in and I do interact with the comments, and so there will still be engagement from me to you even if you're watching the replay. So like, think about, have you been a victim of that? Like, I know I have. Most people nowadays, when they're getting married, let me read some stats here to you. So let's see. In the 2010s, only 5%. Hey, Christine, how are you doing today? Only 5% when they did this in like 2010s were virgins. Okay, and then let's see. All at the end of the let's see, I believe in like so here it is. In the 1970s, 14%. In 2000s, let's see, 2%, it increased 2%, and then 18%. Okay, so let me read this here. I think is this the right stat I'm reading? By 2010, only 5% of new brides were virgin. At the end of the distribution, the number of wives who had 10 or more sex partners. Oh, those are the people who had sex partners. Okay, so in the 2010s, I think in the 1970s, 21% of new brides were virgins. Now, fast forward to 2010, only 5% of new brides are virgins. So this idea that we have that is being communicated to young women in the church who have had partners before they've gotten married is extremely damaging, because we want to put this expectation up there, right? That if you are really a good girl, right? If you're really a good girl, if you really love God, you would have kept yourself. And that's good and fine for those people who were like doing all this other stuff and then they got saved, and it's like an easy message to share because I'm saved, all of my sins have been wiped away. It's easy for me to align myself with that born again, like I'm born again virginity, like my renewed virgin, like I'm in God now. And so all those things are gone, and I am still like, now I'm a new virgin, right? Holy, sanctified, washed, and all that good stuff. But what happens to those women who are in church, and there's no judgment? I don't want anybody to feel condemned I hope and I truly believe I am not someone who communicates condemnation about sexual history at all. If you feel that, please, I'm sorry. Reach out to me and I'll explain it to you. But those women who are in church, right, who have not kept themselves, what happens when you've made a mistake? You've been saved, all those different things, and you've made a mistake and you've slept with someone, okay? Two things can happen in this situation depending on how conservative the church that you're in, right? So maybe one of them, they're gonna tell you, well, technically you've married that person in the spirit, so go ahead and marry them. Or it's just a lot of condemnation, right? A lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of feeling worthless, feeling ruined, like, oh my goodness, like I have discounted myself and removed myself from those women that a good Christian man is going to want. Now that we have, I don't have the number for 2019, but for women, for new brides, if it was 5% in 2020, that's telling me a majority of the women in church, right? Because most marriages, the large percentage of marriages happen when there's this religious expectation that marriage is supposed to be part of the natural progression of a relationship. So most of them are happening in the church. That means most of the women then who are getting married, right, are in the church, are not virgins, okay? So I think we do a really good job at the church, in the church, of talking to people about past sins, but like what happens after you do that? And I went in and looked at premarital sex. I did a search, premarital sex and divorce. And what I found, I want you guys to tell me, because this is the discussion point I want us to get to, because it sent me on an entire like rabbit trail, because it kind of blew my mind. Not that I didn't want it to be true, but it felt like, and it's only one, the study that everyone keeps referencing was done by the National Survey of Family Growth, okay? So these stats are so concerning to me because I feel like it reinforces this idea that women's virginity is this commodity that ruins their potential happiness in the future. So this is what it is, guys. Are you guys ready for this? So this study was done by the National Survey of Family Growth, okay? So for women marrying since the start of the new millennium, women with 10 or more partners were the most likely to divorce. But this only became true in recent years, because before that, it was women who had 2 partners, okay? One of them being outside of the marriage, and one of them, the partner, the married, their spouse. So women now, so that's 10. Women who had 10 or more partners were the most likely to divorce. And then women with 3 to 9 partners were less likely to divorce than women with 2 partners. And then women with 0 to 1 partners were the least likely to divorce, okay? So you guys got that? 10 or more, most likely. 3 to 9 were less likely to divorce than women who had only 2. And there's an understanding about that I'm going to share with you guys. And then women with 0 to 1 partners were the least likely to divorce. So that is telling me, first of all, when you're reading research, let me give you guys a little researcher tip here. When you're looking up statistics, okay, it's very important that you realize and find out the source of those statistics, because oftentimes it can be the questioning and the result of it can be interpreted biased toward the group of people who paid for the survey, okay? So the National Survey of Family Growth has a bent, obviously, for marital stability, which is nothing's wrong with that. And so there could be a little bit of researcher bias in this. And I didn't find any other research. All the articles I was finding, all of them were referencing this research that was done, okay? The thing also about this that kind of made me go, huh? Okay. This is what kind of made me like, what? So this research was only done about women getting into marriage. And when it came to them discussing men, they said this: overall, American women are far more likely to have had multiple premarital sex partners in recent years. Unfortunately, the people who did this research, the NSFG, doesn't have full data on men's premarital sexual behavior, and in any event, men now recall their own marital histories less reliable than women do. Okay. So now we are, and this is just one study. I did a whole thing on like divorce and what increases the rates, and I'll go over that with you guys. We're putting the weight of the success and the focus on the family, like pulled this up and they were talking about it, and it's just like, yeah, this is why we're telling young women not to have sex before marriage. And please don't hear me telling you that you should have sex before marriage. I'm talking to those people who've already done it and they're looking to get married. Okay, women like me, who've done and made the mistake. Like, how do you recover from that? How do you combat this lie? So we're getting deep into it. So like, comment, share the video with your single girlfriends who are in the church and wanting to get married but have this weight on them that's saying, well, you messed up, and so I don't really know if anybody's gonna really want you, right? It may not be being said so blatantly, but it is definitely being, what's the word I want to use? It's definitely being hinted at that this is a possibility because the messaging is so strong in the other direction. There's not a balance in the conversation that I have seen that speaks to women who have made the mistake after they got saved. Okay? So we are putting now, this research is putting the weight of my marital stability on whether or not I had previous sexual partners, okay? And then the more partners that I have, I find it very difficult, honestly, guys, to believe that men and women, that women are more reliable in telling how many sexual partners they have had, because the judgment just in general society that women shouldn't have as many partners before marriage or at any time more than a man. So I don't know why this research or this article here, let's see, I'm reading this on the Institute for Family Studies on their website. So I don't know why they would think that men, because this is their little comment, I shouldn't say their little comment, that's a little shady. Like when David's brothers were like, who have you left those little sheep with, right? It's shade. So I'm not trying to be shady, but their comment that they put in here is that men recall their own sexual history, their own marital history is less reliable than women do. Where would they get that from? Like, why is that a truth that stopped you from providing a full picture of what could cause a marriage to not be stable before the marriage happens? Like, why would that be a thing? And there's just embedded in society this I'm not going to use a big word, but this making women's sexuality and their virginity this commodity that determines what their happiness is going to be. Okay? I don't like that at all. If only 5% of women these days are virgins when they get married, which there's nothing wrong with that. You know, big ups to you for being able to withstand and, push away all of the temptation. And I mean, you may be vaginally a virgin, but sexual purity, which we're going to talk about maybe tomorrow, because this week we're talking about this topic right now, right? So sexual purity is not really about what happens down there. Like, it's here too. And so there's a lot of issues that I have found with this research, okay? The number one thing is, don't do a study about premarital sex and only provide statistics for one gender. only say that women who have had more than 10 partners are most likely to get divorced. What was their partner, like, did their spouse have the same amount of partners? This is an incomplete, and when I did this research and looked this up, every article that I read was referencing this one national, what is it called? This national survey of family growth. And saying and not having a balanced conversation. And so it's all on the woman. It's all on her to have this perfect life before she gets married. And then I get where this embedding in society has come from. We've talked about it before. And I understand where it's coming from in the church as well. Because virginity is just this very highly valued thing, which I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. I'm saying that we need to have a more full conversation that's more comprehensive and inclusive of women who do love God, right? Who want to serve him the best way they can, and they have messed up and they want to get married, and there's not a better message for them that I have found in the church. Now, I wrote a better message for you in the book, okay? Because this is a lie that we're told, right? That the good Christian girl who doesn't wait perfectly before marriage won't find herself a good man, or she won't have a good marriage. Now, what this study is saying is that that lie is true. But this study is not a full study because we don't know what happened with the men, okay? I'll tell you, let's see here. So one of the reasons why for a very long time women who had had 2 partners were the most likely to get a divorce, okay? Because of the comparison. Because they were comparing their partners with their spouse with this one person. And so it was like they didn't have multiple people to compare them to and all this other stuff. So you have 2 partners. You are the most, apparently, according to this, for women, more likely to get a divorce. Okay? Now, what I went into then after that, I wanted to look at what really increases the likelihood of divorce. What's a fuller picture of how we can look at this? Okay? So here's a fuller picture. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 points here. Okay? What increases your risk of divorce? People are more likely to divorce the younger they were when they got married or moved in with their future spouse. The more of your coworkers who are the opposite sex, the higher risk of divorce. Having friends, family members, or coworkers who are recently divorced. Here's the one, I'll read that one last because I'm gonna dive deeper into that. Higher, and I've heard this one before, the higher spending on both the engagement ring and the wedding has been linked to shorter marriage durations. So save your coins when you get married. Do not spend a lot of money on the ring or on the wedding, okay? Go to the courthouse, have your little reception, and get that money, buy a house, or go on a vacation, okay? So the more you spend on an engagement ring and the wedding, the more likely you are apparently to get divorced. Not marrying someone close to your own age increases your risk of divorce. Is that interesting? What do you guys think about that? Is any of that like yeah, that makes sense? Or is it just like, no? I mean, I've heard about the more you spend on the wedding, the shorter your marriage is, for sure. The last one here, because I read 5. So the last thing here is living in an area with a high concentration of conservative or evangelical Protestants increases your risk of divorce. I love the church. I'm not trying to talk bad about the church at all, okay? But one of the things that increases your risk of divorce is living in an area with a high concentration of conservative or evangelical Protestants. That's really interesting, right? So, let me pull this up here for you guys. Let me see if it'll go to it. While I'm pulling, let me pull this up for us to go over. What do you guys think about that? Tell me what you think about that. Put it in the comment or join me live. Let's have the conversation. What do you think why that is, or about those points? So, like, for me, if we are going to talk about, oh, the more partners you have as a woman, we have no idea for men what that means. Is it the more partners men have, do they get divorced faster too? What's the research on it? We don't know. Okay, so here, I'm not sure if I can pull this up for you guys. Let me see if I can share this with you. It's on my laptop. Okay, so those are the areas that have the highest divorce rates. And do you see the blue area there? The darker blue it is, the higher the rate of divorce is. And that's more usually what we call in America the Bible Belt. Have higher rates of divorce. Now, one of the things that increases your rate of divorce is marrying young. And so I know in the church, like when I came to Colorado, coming from Philly, people got married in like their 30s, late 20s and all that. When I came to Colorado, the kids were like 21, 20, 19, and they were getting married. And I was like, really? Like, I worked with one girl at this restaurant. She must have been 23, and she was already going through divorce. Like, things that I didn't hear about in Philadelphia, because I came from Philly to Colorado for Bible college. So I have my master's in biblical studies. But when I came here, it was just very strange because people were getting married so young. And this girl was 23 with a kid going through divorce, something I only heard about with people who are like in their 40s or 50s in Philadelphia, okay? So Colorado Springs is very evangelical. There's lots of parachurches. It's a high concentration of Christians. So, yeah, so the more, I don't see... Colorado's not really in here too much. Yeah, so here it is again, so you guys can see it. So the blue there, these are the states that have the highest rates of divorce, which are heavy concentration of evangelical and Protestants. What do you think that? So they went through different questions like, is it poverty? No, it wasn't poverty. Is it higher rates of marriage? It didn't hold up. That's not what's happening. They're not getting married more. Is it just regional culture in the religiously conservative southern states? They said, while high rates of violent crime do increase divorce rates. Okay, let me read the beginning for you guys because that sounds like choppy. So a third explanation offered before is that dominance of religious conservatives in the South reflects a regional culture that also promotes relatively high rates of interpersonal violence, and these factors destabilize marriage. So that's why they were talking about crimes. So, but while high rates of violent crimes do increase divorce rates, they, through a careful analysis of the variations, that this also did not explain the association between religious conservatism and divorce, okay? So is it because people are getting married early and they have low income? That's part of the story. So let's see here. What they found, even if they're not like going to a church, they still have a higher rate of divorce because of the cultural pressure that is found in those societies. And so if I'm looking and trying to get a full picture, like as a young woman, if what we talked about earlier, that women who have more partners, right, before they get married have a higher risk of divorce, and I don't tell this other picture as well with the 6 things I just listed, including this statistic, that if I only came on and told you guys you ladies, that people who are part of conservative Protestant groups have higher rates of divorce, who live in those states have a higher rates of divorce, you'd be thinking like, well, I need to move out. I need to move out of that state, because if I'm trying to get married, I don't want my marriage to end up in divorce. There must be something in the water that's causing these people to get a divorce, right? You would want to move away from a situation that could be a high predictor of you having an unstable marriage that's going to end in divorce, okay? If I only told the one side. So if our community, the church, is only telling the one side, although, yes, it agrees. I don't know if the Bible says you're going to get the Bible does not say if you've had premarital sex is more likely you'll get a divorce. No, the Bible does not say that. It definitely tells you not to have premarital sex. But if I only told that one side of the story to young women sitting in the pews of a church, the same way that I would have an adverse reaction to not wanting to be living in that Bible Belt in those states because they have a higher rates of divorce, like I would want to move away from that situation. It is the same way that if we are from the pulpit telling young women, okay, or any woman who wants to get married who's single, okay, telling them that somehow they've ruined their ability to find a good man and to have a good long-term, long marriage because they've had multiple partners, I'm putting in your head all kinds of condemnation, all kinds of like guilt and shame in your head, because I'm telling you statistically it proves that you are already doomed. Statistically, if you are not a virgin and you have had premarital sex after you've been saved or whenever it happened for you, then you're just doomed. You just cannot have a happy marriage. If that's something that you really want, you just can't have that. My sexuality or the decisions I made with my sexuality doesn't allow me to make different decisions. It paints me in a light that I'm looking like Rahab the harlot or Jezebel or just a slut or whore. Like, that is who even though I have made different decisions, like I talked with you guys on Friday about making decisions about only making sure that whatever touches my body is always loving and always honoring, right? And part of that is being in a long-term committed relationship. So because now I made those decisions, there's no way for me to really come back from those decisions because it's just a part of my story that I have to carry all the time. That's a lie, okay? Let me just straight out say it. So usually about towards the end of the show, we start getting into this. So I shared the stats with you in the beginning. I educate you. So by the time I get to sharing my opinion and my studies and understanding of the subject and what I want to communicate to young women, and please, if you have daughters, if you have nieces who are in this culture of trying to be perfect so that they can find a good man, please share this with them. Thank you for the heart. I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please share this video, okay? So that they can get hold of this book. If they feel somehow counted out because they've made a mistake, this book is for them, okay? Get this book for them. Give it as a gift. Give it to them as a summer read. They need to read through it. So my opinion, and not my opinion, here's the truth of what the Bible talks about, okay? God has forgiven you for all of your sins, okay? So he died 2019 years ago for your sin before you were ever even born. So he's not only forgiven you for the sins that you did before you knew him, he's forgiven you for the present things that you do that harm yourself, okay? And the future things you're going to do that's going to harm yourself. And there's nothing good that God is going to withhold from you because he loves you. Okay? Your sexual history, if you're not a virgin, if you've become a victim of this good Christian girl myth, it is just that. It is a myth and it's a lie. Okay? Don't let anybody tell you, sister girl, that because you have had 10 or more partners or 2 partners or whoever, because you're not a virgin, that you are, and even with this research, that you are somehow discounted for marriage if that is something that you're desiring, or discounted for anything good, because we wear so much shame, we hold so much guilt in our sexuality that even when it's not about marriage, we discount ourselves from the best God has in life for us because we feel like we've messed up and he forgave us, but he's kind of just like tolerating us until we can get it together. Like, that is such a lie, okay? And I'm feeling and speaking very strongly about this because this is the first of many lies that I heard in the church and received that took me away from God. Like, not from God, away from the church, because I wasn't perfect. Like, I had made a mistake and nobody was telling me, like, it's cool, not like it's cool, like, make better decisions. First find out, this is why people need coaches. Find out why you made that decision, right? What was the void in you that you were feeding that you made that decision? How can you get back to a place with God where he's the one who is fulfilling that desire, that need, whatever it is that you have? You're pursuing your purpose is going to fulfill that, whatever that is that's inside of you. Why did you make the decision to go ahead and do that and to be in a situation that eventually ended up hurting you? So yes, you made a decision, you had sex, you weren't married, okay? It's done. The relationship maybe ended. And instead of feeling bad or questioning your motives, you get to church and it's not about the relationship. It's all about the fact that you had, like, it's only about the physical thing that happened, and then the soul ties that were formed and all this stuff. Now you got yourself tangled. You've married all these people. You're married in the spirit, and that's why God's not bringing you your husband. All this stuff that comes from this messaging that premarital sex somehow discounts or what's the word I want to use? Disqualifies you. Having premarital sex disqualifies you from being happy in the future with a godly man who's going to love you and respect you and honor you. Like, we don't talk about whether the man has sex. Okay? We don't talk about that, okay? It's all about the female, okay? She's the whole reason why the marriage is going to fail or not. And I just read those stats to you, okay, about other factors that increase the likelihood of divorce. And so we have the hurdle of, I made a mistake, am I going to get a good guy? And then I get married, and then my Christian marriage counseling, we're having to talk about how my premarital sexual behavior is actually stopping and preventing me from having a stable relationship. I don't know. No. Yes, it can come up if you have hang-ups, okay, about sexual activity that you're comparing with previous partners. That's an easy fix, okay? If you still have emotions toward those people that you were with, that can be fixed. But just the mere fact that you physically engaged in sexual activity before marriage is not the cause of your marriage not working, and will not be the cause of your marriage not working if that is what you are desiring after. Okay? So we're getting closer here to the end. So here's what I wanted to read for you all. Okay? And what I'm saying is not to tell you to say, oh yeah, go outside and have sex with whoever you want to have sex with. Go have a good time and go party. I'm not saying that, okay? What I am saying is, and what I talk about, if that lie that you have messed up so bad that you can't, like, you're not qualified to be happy in the future, or somehow you've been stained. You're not stained, first of all. You're washed clean continually. Jesus continuously washes us. Your physical activity is not the problem. This is where we have toxic thoughts. This is where toxic behavior emanates from, okay? We think something, we feel something, and then we do something, okay? So if you start at the doing of the something, you are not fixing this, right? Because you're cutting off the fruit and you're leaving all of the root there. So what I go through this book, I'm not in here, I'm not telling you, like, if you're in a little boo situation, if you got a relationship, okay? A situationship, okay? If you are sexual in that relationship, in this book, I'm not telling you in the beginning to go ahead and stop that. We have to get to the root of what is happening. Is that person feeding your soul? Are they good for your mental health and stability, right? Why did you choose to be with them? What was in you that you see reflected in the relationship that you know is damaging toward you, okay? We have to start there first. So we're going to have the conversation about don't have sex before marriage. If you did, get saved. Okay, I'm saved. I did it again. Okay, but now you really messed up because now it's going to be really hard for a young man to look at you and want you, or whoever the man is. Apparently, you should get somebody closer to your age because the stats say the farther apart in age you are to the person you get married to, the more likely you are to get divorced, okay? So, yeah, I guess it got to be a little closer. So, if you do it now, my message to you today is that literally there is no such thing that we can naturally do to make us good Christian girls. We are just good Christian girls because Jesus said so. For no other reason. Like, you believe in him by faith, right? So your good Christian girl status is by faith. Now, faith does have works, but it starts with the believing. It starts with you having conversation with God, right? It starts there. What Rihanna say, somebody asked Rihanna, like, do you want a man? Or what she said, are you dating? Do you want to get married or something? And I think Rihanna was like, I don't need a man. Let's start there. Okay? So let's start there. Yeah. So get this right. Get your heart right. If you need help, call me. Send me a DM. And let's set up a breakthrough session for you. If that has been something that has been really, really like ruining your self-concept, your self-image, your identity, having this stain on you about your past sexual history. It's not a thing, girl. Like, you need to talk and heal through it, but it's not a thing for Jesus. And the man that God's going to send for you, or the man that you're going to choose to marry, however you want to look at it, whoever that partner is that is good for you, is not going to be asking you or delving deep into or saying things like that young man said to me in 2016 about that young lady, about how he didn't want to be with her because she was ruined. Boy, bye. Okay? I want to read these cool stats on you here about what decreases your likelihood. I just thought they were fun. So what decreases the likelihood of divorce? People who wait to marry or cohabitate until they are over the age of 23 are less likely to get divorced. If you've attended college, your risk of divorce decreases by 13%. If you have a baby after getting married, at least 7 months after, your risk of divorce decreases by 24%. Now that's interesting. You are less likely to divorce if your annual income is above $25,000. Now I think like 22, maybe this is poverty level now, but I think like 22,000 a year is poverty level. So if you're really close to poverty level, you're more likely to get divorced. Obviously, I mean, we thinking about money. If your parents are happily married, your risk of divorce decreases by 14%. But I think that's really interesting, the thing about having a baby after getting married, at least 7 months after, your risk of divorce decreases the most by 24%. I think that's really interesting. Now, for social media, I love stats. I'm just keep reading the stats until the end of the show, and we'll discuss it. If anything interesting comes up and you guys want to comment, let me know. Join me live or comment what you're thinking. So stats on social media in divorce. So all my people in relationships, listen up, listen up. Listen, Linda, listen. 1 in 3 divorces start as online affairs. Girl, Facebook is crazy, okay? People be sliding in DMs, okay? So forget who you slept with before you got married. People sliding in the DMs, okay? If 1 in 3 divorces, 1 in 3? That's crazy. 1 in 3, 1/3? What is that? Is that 60%? What's that? 30%? No, that's not 30%. Hold on 1 second. That's a lot. What? No, let me find this out real quick. Hold on, y'all. I have to pull out the calculator. Because that's crazy. 1 in 3 divorces start as online. Yeah, 30%. 33%. Start as online affairs. DMs. I think somebody I'm going to leave that alone. That was on the shade room. Okay. 25%. 1/4. 1 out of every 4 couples fight about Facebook at least once a week. Are you guilty? Are you guilty about Facebook? I could say I could be counted in that number in previous relationships for sure. Like, who are you talking to? Why you liking her pictures? When did y'all become friends? Okay, or is me? Oh, this is so funny. So the other day, I watched this live. It's a Liberian lady. Her name is Best, and she does her live shows on Facebook. And on Friday, she does Love Connection. So I was watching it before my live show on my page, right? So it was Love Connection. I just like hanging out, like reading the comments. Like, I love engaging with them. And so this person in the comments is like, hi to me, right? And so I'm like, hi back, this gentleman. So he calls in. I'm not thinking anything of it. His last name is we have people in my church back home who have the same last name. So I didn't think anything. I was like, okay, hi, whatever. So this is so funny. So he comes on the live chat, right? And he's like, I want to let Yema know that I'm interested in her, like off of a high, okay? I want to let Yema know that I'm interested in her and I want to start a relationship with her. I was like, what? And he was a older gentleman, okay? And he's like, Yema, who's in Colorado Springs. I was like, whoo, he's been on my profile and everything. We just got here. And so I was like, look, thank you for the compliment. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here because I don't want my partner to see all this stuff going on and think that I started this conversation. So it is very easy for 1 in 4 couples. It has to be more. This study has to be probably a couple of years old. There has to be more people who are fighting over Facebook. It got to be at least 50%. People are fighting over Facebook every week. These are just fun facts at the end, guys, as we close up. So 1 in 7 married people have contemplated divorce because of their partner's social media activity. 1 in 7. 1 in 5 feel uneasy about their relationship after discovering something on their partner's Facebook account. I'm telling you, man, I love Facebook, but that Facebook Messenger, that thing is alive. Like, I didn't realize how live Facebook Messenger was until I went to hang out with a bunch of friends for my birthday, around my birthday in May. And like, we all started getting connected, and like, Facebook is jumping in the Messenger. Because what I heard was like, younger people aren't really on Facebook anymore. Everyone's moved over to Instagram and Snapchat. Is like, Facebook is for the older generation trying to catch up with like family friend photos, you know, kids and all that stuff, so they're trying to catch up. But that Facebook Messenger is where all the young folks are, starting a whole lot of drama. If 1 in 3, okay? Hey, Lawrence. Saying that he wants to join. Do you have a comment, Lawrence, about the Facebook situation? It says adding you, but it's not connecting. So here's another one. I don't want to like not look at it, and then Lawrence comes on, and Lauren may be saying some things that we don't want to be said here, and then I have to quickly X them out. Okay, so let me put it up like this so I can read it. Facebook is the #1 source for all divorces. Oh my goodness. Facebook is the #1 source for online divorce evidence. 81% of AAML divorce attorneys have used or encountered evidence obtained from social media. And then 14%. So it says, Lawrence, your connection failed. Now, 14% of adults say 14%, that's kind of low. 14% of adults say they look through their partner's social media accounts for evidence of infidelity. Okay, so that's the end of the fun stats. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. Once again, beautiful young women, I want to encourage you tonight to not allow this idea that you have to be this perfect, good Christian girl for someone to love you, for someone to choose to marry you, or, you know, the sense of what we talked about this whole show, like this perfect person who hasn't made any mistakes, who has this completely clean record, who's a virgin. Like somehow that makes you disqualified to either be married or increases your chances of having a divorce. That is, although that research said it, that research was not a balanced study that included other factors in it. And so I don't want you to pay attention to that as to an indicator that your future happiness is dependent upon how many sexual partners you've had. That's not true. At any time, you can make a different decision. At any time, you can choose to be whole. At any time you can choose to love yourself. You can choose to receive fully God's love for you and make better decisions, and know that you're fabulous. Know that you're amazing. Know that you're beautiful. Okay. Know that you're worth it. Know that you're a diamond. Okay. And you're completely worth the attention and the care and the pursuit, okay, of a good, godly man that would come into your life. You're worth it, no matter what your past is or your present, child. I know we all trying to get it together, okay? So if you have gone through that or currently going through that, make sure you pick up the book, Good Sex by Me. Okay, this is when I have my locks. Make sure you pick this up. And if you pick it up and you have questions, or you're getting triggered, or things are going crazy for you and you want to talk, make sure you want to get coached through your process. Make sure you reach out to me. Slide in my DMs, child. Slide in the DMs, and I will set up a breakthrough call with you for you, okay? Thank you so much. Please make sure you like, comment. Please make sure you share this video. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.